I remember this one moment early in my career when I was in a room full of people who were louder than their purpose. Everybody was talking, agents negotiating like auctioneers, directors debating camera angles, actors trying to outshine one another with their charm and volume. You'd think the louder you spoke, the more power you had, but something didn't sit right with me. I sat there and I watched, I listened, and the more I observed, the more I realized the one with the most control wasn't the one speaking the most. It was the one who knew when not to speak, that man. The one who only said a few words but made everyone lean in to hear them. He had the room, he had the power, because silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. You see, we've been taught that if we're not making noise, we're not making progress. That if we're not seen, we're falling behind. But that's a lie. True power doesn't come from always being heard. It comes from knowing your moment. When you're silent, people underestimate you. They think you don't know what's going on. They think you're unsure, unprepared. But what they don't see is the clarity forming behind your stillness. They don't see the mental discipline it takes to keep your mouth shut when your ego wants to speak. They don't see the inner strength required to stay calm when everything around you is in chaos. That's not emptiness. That's restraint. That's power under control. I've learned that some of the strongest decisions I've ever made were made in silence. Not in front of a crowd, not in a loud debate, but in quiet rooms behind closed doors with just me, my faith, and my future sitting at the table. Silence teaches you how to hold space, not just for others, but for yourself. It teaches you to observe before you engage, to study before you strike. It's where your instincts sharpen, where your intuition matures. And when you move from that space, from stillness, from silence, your words carry weight. Your actions speak louder, and when you finally decide to step forward, everybody listens. You ever have that moment when everything around you is loud, opinions flying, expectations pressing down on you, and yet somewhere deep inside, there's this whisper, not a shout, not a scream, just a quiet nudge saying, "This way." That's destiny talking, and the truth is, most people miss it. Not because it's not there, but because they've drowned it out with the noise of everything else. We live in a world that loves volume. Everybody's got something to say. Social media tells you to post more, speak up, shout your truth every hour on the hour. People will tell you where to go, what to do, how fast to get there. But the thing about your destiny is, it don't compete, it don't yell, it don't interrupt, it waits, and you only hear it when you get quiet. I've been in those moments where I was chasing something that looked good, but didn't feel right. And deep down, there was this quiet resistance inside me, like something tugging at my spirit, saying, "This isn't your lane." I didn't hear it because I was too busy asking everyone else for directions, instead of trusting the GPS built inside me. It took silence to realign me. It took stepping back, unplugging, going to war with my own impatience, because that's what silence does. It forces you to confront your own noise first, your doubts, your fears, your ego. And when all that settles, what's left is truth. That whisper, that's your blueprint. That's your higher self speaking before the world has a chance to confuse you. But you've got to want it badly enough to quiet everything else. Sometimes silence means walking away from conversations that don't serve you. Sometimes it means letting people think you're lost, while you're really just listening. And sometimes it means standing in the middle of pressure and still choosing not to panic, just so you can hear that whisper more clearly, because the whisper doesn't chase you, it waits. And if you never slow down, if you never go silent, you'll spend your life chasing someone else's path and calling it your own. But when you do get still, when you truly listen, you realize the whisper was never faint. You were just too loud to hear it. There's something sacred about silence when you're locked in on a goal. When you're grinding behind the scenes, no distractions, no applause, just you and the work. That silence, it sharpens your mind like a blade. It strips away the unnecessary, the noise, the expectations, and it brings your purpose into full view. It becomes your forge. I've had nights where I was up alone, everyone else asleep, no phone ringing, no emails buzzing, just that deep silence. And in that stillness, that's where the real breakthroughs happened. Not on the red carpet, not under the spotlight, but in those invisible hours when nobody was watching, and the only person I had to answer to was the man in the mirror. Focus don't happen by accident. You don't stumble into greatness. You build it in silence because silence removes the clutter. It removes the pressure to compare. It gives you permission to zone in so hard on your gift that the world fades out. And when you come out of that tunnel, people won't recognize you. Not because you changed, but because you finally became undistracted. You want to build something that lasts. You want to leave a legacy, not just a moment. Then you've got to protect your focus like it's sacred, because it is. Distractions will dress up like opportunities. They'll call your name sweet, but they'll rob your time, steal your peace, and leave you empty. But when you're silent, when you train yourself to say no to noise, no to comparison, no to every trend pulling you off your path, you start to see clear. You start to hear what matters. You begin to respect your own pace, your own rhythm. That's when your vision stops being a dream and starts becoming direction. And let me tell you, legacy ain't built overnight. It's built moment by moment, decision by decision, in the dark, in silence. And every time you choose focus over distraction, you are writing your legacy in bold letters. So if people don't see you around like they used to, if you ain't posting, if you ain't explaining, if you're just working, good. Stay there. That's silence. That's the sound of focus. That's the sound of your legacy being built one quiet brick at a time. There's a difference between reacting and responding, and that difference can change your whole life. See, reacting is emotional, it's immediate, it's raw. Somebody disrespects you, you fire back. Somebody doubts you, you over-explain. You get cut off in traffic, you're yelling in the car like it's going to change the world. That's reaction, that's ego, but response, that's wisdom, that's maturity, that's silence working on your behalf. I've had people test me. I've had people talk about me like they knew me, like they built me, like they were the reason I stood where I stood. And every part of me wanted to speak up, set the record straight. But I've learned, just because you feel something doesn't mean it's time to act on it. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Some battles aren't worth your breath. They're distractions wearing the mask of justice. Silence gives you space. It's the breath before the punchline. It's the pause before the move that checkmates the board. In that space, you don't just gain control, you gain perspective. You get the chance to ask, is this worth my energy? Or is this just noise trying to steal my peace? Let me say this plain, not everything deserves a reaction. In fact, most things don't. When you react, they control you. When you respond, you take the control back. You ever notice how the most dangerous man in the room is usually the quietest one? That's because he's thinking. He's calculating. He knows the value of restraint. He understands that power doesn't have to prove itself, and neither do you. The one who reacts gives away their energy. The one who responds holds it, protects it, uses it with precision. You might be in a season right now where you feel like people are pushing your buttons. They're pressing you to break character. They want to see you stumble, snap, lash out. But real silence is not weakness. It's mastery, it's self-command, and that level of discipline, that's rare. So don't let the world bait you into noise. You don't need to prove your worth with words. Let your presence speak. Let your silence be your message. And when you do choose to respond, let it be from a place of peace, not pride, because the loudest move is the one made with quiet conviction. There's a kind of silence that isn't about discipline or strategy. It's about faith. It's the silence you step into when you've done all you can, and now it's time to trust the process. Trust God. Trust the work you've put in behind the scenes, and that's not easy, because we're wired to want proof. We want applause, results, recognition. Now, but silence requires belief before evidence. It's the space between planting the seed and seeing the tree. I've had to learn that the most powerful moves in life are often the most invisible. While the world is looking for instant wins, real greatness is growing roots. That's what silence is. It's root work. Nobody sees it. It's quiet, it's deep, it's slow, but it's necessary, because without roots, anything that grows fast won't last. I remember being in a season where it felt like nothing was happening. I was doing the work, showing up, staying consistent, but on the surface, no results, no big moments, just silence, and I started to question everything. Was I on the right path? Was I wasting time? Should I switch lanes? But the truth is, silence isn't the absence of movement. It's the proof of unseen progress. Just because the phone isn't ringing doesn't mean your purpose isn't unfolding. Just because nobody's clapping doesn't mean the heavens aren't watching. Just because it's quiet doesn't mean it's empty. Sometimes silence is God's way of saying, I'm working. Sit still. It takes faith to stay committed when there's no confirmation. It takes courage to keep going when no one is watching. But that's where real transformation lives. That's where character is built. Not in the spotlight, but in the silence where you learn how to believe without evidence. How to build without applause, how to keep showing up even when it feels like the world forgot your name. You don't need to broadcast every move. You don't need to prove yourself every step of the way. Some of the most powerful prayers are the ones said in silence. Some of the strongest decisions are the ones made when no one's looking. And some of the greatest victories are born in the quiet grind that nobody claps for. Because when it's time, when that door opens, when that breakthrough hits, when that blessing lands, it won't feel like luck. It'll feel like confirmation, and you'll know it didn't come from noise, it came from patience, from trust, from the silent, sacred work that was always working for you behind the scenes. So now you know, silence isn't weakness, it's strength restrained, it's strategy refined, it's spirit aligned. In a world that's addicted to noise, be the one who moves in quiet conviction. In a culture that rewards the loudest voice, be the one whose silence speaks volumes. Because when you understand the power of silence, you stop chasing attention and start attracting purpose. You begin to hear the whisper of destiny. You start building focus instead of feeding distraction. You learn to respond with wisdom instead of reacting with emotion. And most importantly, you trust that just because it's quiet doesn't mean nothing's happening. It means something's growing. Don't be afraid to go silent. Be silent when you're healing. Be silent when you're growing. Be silent when you're plotting your next step. And be silent when your spirit tells you to watch instead of speak. Because if you stay grounded, if you stay faithful, if you stay focused in that stillness, the world will wonder how you moved without a sound and still shook the ground. Be silent. You will get everything in your life. Thank you.